get you called up right over here, Gabe.
First off, what'd you do with that hat?
We've got it. It's part of a trophy. So there's after the game, they came up and said that it's customary that the winning coach wear the hat. So I put it on. I forgot I had it on for a while. It was comfortable, but everybody's giving me a hard time, about pictures with it and wearing it. But it beats the alternative. I'd rather have the hat than not have it. Put it that way.
Absolutely. Secondly, what can you say to update us about some of your defensive guys who were out?
What do you mean? We know we don't talk about injuries.
All right.
I knew that was coming. I won my bet.
That's right.
I had to ask.
That's it. I'll pay you up later. Cease.
Kevin, can you talk about how do you assess your offensive line the first game after all the changes? A few changes, systematic.
What do you mean, all the changes?
Systematically, the techniques, the way you're blocking.
I think, when you're in a game like that, and I think that to the naked eye, anytime there is a difficulty running the ball, automatically is assumed that it's the offensive line. The way that this offense is designed, there are a lot more parts to it than just 5 guys up front. And so the execution on the perimeter, the ability for our quarterbacks to be able to change plays and get the ball out or change the play that's called is part of this offense. And so with a couple young guys, you got one quarterback started 5 or 6 games, the other guy hadn't played at all against a very, very exotic blitzing defense. We were extremely conservative Saturday night in what we did with a running back who carried the ball 29 times, played 80 snaps, and a sure-handed guy. So, there's a combination of a lot of those things, particularly in the first ball game. And, we will, as we move on, we'll become more multiple. I think our quarterbacks and our offense was conservative Saturday, and you can be that way when your defense is playing the way it played. And so, our style of play for that game was probably a little bit different than it has been since, not a little bit, a lot different than it has been since we've been here as a football team. Will that change? Will that be the case all the time? I don't know. But, certainly we have a lot more confidence in where we are defensively for a feel for that game. But, all said and done, if you can have 400 and some yards and 38 points or whatever it was, 31 points offensively, a touchdown run back, you get 38. I think people take that every week. It's just a matter of when that was. Is it frustrating sometimes? Not for us. I mean, you make a point down there, we get the turnover and we run it 3 straight times. There were some things involved in that could have been changed at the line of scrimmage, but conservatively where we were, our quarterbacks, based on looks that they saw and things that were going on, basically ran the play. And we kicked the field goal and took the points, and with our quarterbacks, inside in the red zone, just like last year, we've talked about, we need to do a better job of protecting the 3 points and then trying to score touchdowns. And when you have an exotic team like that and a team that's blitzing, 90% of the time, the conservative way was the way to go, particularly the way our defense was playing.
We'll go Sam and then Brent down front.
Kevin, traditionally you've been a stick with one quarterback kind of guy. What went into the decision to consciously play 2 guys on Saturday, and how much should we expect of that moving forward?
We'll see what goes on moving forward. We had a plan to play Kyler the whole time. We were able to get him in with just under 3 minutes to go in that first half. Time ran out on him. We ended up he moved the ball, ended up throwing it out, scrambled over there, and ran out of time in the first half, and came out, and it was a little bit different for him too. He was sitting there at halftime breathing as hard as he's ever breathed, and I looked over, he started smiling. He goes, man, he was like, I can't breathe, and those guys out there are fast too. So, it's just been the first time that it really hit him that maybe I'm not the fastest guy on the field all the time, although he looked like it to me a couple times. But just the adrenaline and him getting into a game, particularly the atmosphere, what an atmosphere that was. Loud. So that was great for him. And then, getting back in there in the second half, that was all part of it. I think what you saw was a combination of two things. Number one, the maturity level of Kyle Allen and how he was handling the situation. But also, I think it also had to do with the explanation that, I've heard the word yanked. Nobody yanked anybody. The explanation to him was that, hey, you're going back in. And so I think a guy was able to handle that on the sideline. They were able to talk to each other. And I think knowing that he was going to have an opportunity to get back in and that was going to happen probably calmed both of them down a little bit. And then obviously the maturity of Kyle in the situation this year instead of last year has helped him.
But putting him back in the second half, was that more strategic to counter some of the pressure that they were bringing?
A little bit, yeah. Just settle us down a little bit, give him a change of looks. After you never knew what was going to happen with him in the first half, and there were some things that he did on his own. That created some things, and then there were some other things as a young guy, freshman guy, that he didn't recognize, but put himself in those positions where he had to run. So that's all part of a learning experience. And as I said before, as fast as it looked from the stands, you stand behind that center. That team, Arizona State's a fast football team. And they're bringing blitzes from everywhere, showing you one side, bringing guys from another. That's a tough deal on a young quarterback. But to get him that kind of experience so he can say, man, that's, here's the difference between high school and college. And there's a lot of things that athletically he's been able to do and get away with that I think he's found out, and it's easier as a coach to really talk to guys once they've really seen it and say, hey, you know what, I need to work at this part of the game, and if I can do that, then I need to become a complete quarterback to be successful. And I think that's where that helps, and it's a change of pace. But, and Kyle Allen responded in the fourth quarter with I thought he had great poise. I thought he had great energy, was extremely accurate. We continued to throw the ball there after we settled down to move the ball off the goal line and go right down the field. So, there's a lot of things that we can learn from that football game. As I said, we got a ways to go as a team, but there are a lot of positive things for us to draw off of and say, all right, here's what we did well, but in order to be really good, we've got to improve in certain areas, and our quarterbacks know that.
Down front, Brent.
I think you all mentioned before when Deshaun arrived, he looked a lot like a basketball player, long and lean.
He was, yeah.
And
he was 208
right
on his visit.
And about 260 now, right?
Yeah,
and,
about 260.
And could you just speak to how he's progressed? And I know he had trouble lifting weights because of some stuff, but here in the offseason had a good offseason. And while Miles gets so much of the attention, he's pretty good in his own right.
Well, we said, during fall camp, it could be a big year for him. This is really the first offseason that he's had. He had both, in the time he's been here, he's had both shoulders operated on with labrum tears and just, a guy that was young and we put him on the field because we didn't have anybody. He should have redshirted, but, now this was the first offseason that he really had as far as strength and conditioning. And the nutrition, everything that we put together for him. He's extremely athletic. He's, taller than Miles. He's long. He's still learning the game. But he's got great energy, great passion, and extremely athletic. So, anybody who's watched the TV copy or the game copy, there's sometimes 3 guys blocking Myles Garrett. The tight end, the tackle, running back go over there and hit him in the stomach. Somebody else better be able to do something on the other side. So, whether it was Donovan Wilson, who I thought played extremely well. I know our 2 defensive ends got a lot of credit, but I really thought that the 3 guys in the back end, Donovan Wilson, Justin Evans, and Armani Watts, covered a lot of ground and were able to tackle people in space, fill on the run, and really run to the football and close down some alleys. So, Deshaun Hall is really, it'll be really interesting to see as time goes on how he progresses this year, because he's really worked hard at it. I think the scheme helps him, and those guys are getting up the field and playing really, really hard.
We'll go to the back left, Zach, and then Gabe.
Coach, I know you touched on it a little bit Saturday on Trey Carson's performance, but can you just expound a little bit on what he did for you guys and anything unexpected, expected that he did? No,
he's been a solid player for us, for really since he's been here. He coming off the bowl game where he had a 100-yard performance there. So he's a workhorse. We'd like to look like I really thought James White was going to have a big night too. The way he started off, but James got dinged a little bit playing special teams, and it's nothing serious. He just, he didn't feel real good about a couple things, and so when you have a running back that's got a little issue, that's usually when they can put the ball on the ground. So Trey said, hey, he sucked it up and just went the rest of the game. So, he's a guy that I think is 230, 235 is a big back that can block, that's trustworthy. He's got really good hands, and he can do everything for us, and he's a leader for us. So, we rested him a little bit yesterday, and we'll taper him back. But I don't really worry about Trey Carson when it comes to game time and him being able to be effective against any opponent.
Go Gabe, and then Darryl in the back.
Kevin, how'd you feel Brandon Williams did in his first look at corner?
Good. He's got some real talent. And at 6 foot 205, he's an average or to slight build running back. At 6 foot 205 as a corner, he's a big corner and an NFL prospect. He's going to continue to work at his technique. He is physical. He's one of the fastest guys on the team. He's got long arms, strength. I think the sky's the limit for him. And he practices. He loves to play the position. He's still an emergency running back for us, if we get past, 3 or 4. So, I think what he is doing is not only is he's helping our football team at corner in my conversation to him, but I think he's also helping himself and to showcase where he can play at the next level. Because as he continues to improve, if he can improve his technique, I think he's gone from a free agent, late round guy, to a draft pick, playing corner by size, speed, and skill. So as he continues to get better, it helps him and it helps us, and that's what it's all about.
Go to the back, Darryl, and then Kate down front.
Coach, about Ball State, can you talk a little bit about Darian Green and his all-purpose ability and talents, not only as a receiver, running back, but also a kickoff guy?
Yeah, a little bit like what we faced last week, and a guy that they're going to get the ball to. I think Coach Limbo, Pete Limbo, has done a great job at Ball State. You look back at he's tailored his offense to those type of guys that they can get the ball to. All you got to do is look at Coach Limbo's record. Here's a team that over the last 4 or 5 years, they've beaten Indiana twice, beat USF, beat Virginia, had Iowa beat last year at Iowa in the last play of the game. So these guys are going to come in here and looking around. I mean, they've gone on the road and beaten some Power 5 teams. It's kind of their deal. So they'll be fired up to get in here and play, and they'll have a plan. They threw it around. They've scored 40 points. Going back to the last year, the last 2 games last year and last week, 40-some points through 50-some times. They know what they're doing, and Coach Limbo knows what he's doing, and so they're not coming here just to play a game. They've been going places every year to beat people, and so that gets our attention right away. And we can't. Last Saturday's over with. We need to move forward and get better as a team and be ready to play Saturday night.
Go down front, Kate, and then back to the back.
Christian Kirk is obviously a fast guy, but what else about his skill set makes him such a threat to break those big plays?
Well, very seldom do you see a guy that comes in a program as a freshman that is a really good receiver already. I mean, that's what he did, and a return guy. That can be a return guy at that level. He handled. With people that didn't watch the game or didn't really notice, he handled every kickoff and every punt in that environment, and which tells you the kind of trust we had in him. We haven't had that. Trey Williams was the first guy that we trusted against Florida the first time. I was nervous, really nervous on the opening kickoff, but. He's and Speedy's handled punts. We kind of eased him into it last year. This guy, he goes out there and he handles every punt and every kickoff for the whole game, and then he starts. So that tells you what kind of talent level he is, and what kind of trust we have in him as coaches. And that doesn't come from just a couple flashes here or there. That comes from what he has shown us at practice, his competitive nature, and not only his competitive nature, but how he plays football. He's a guy that he'll make a mistake, and they just talk to him, and that's it. He caught one punt, chased him back inside the 10 to the 6-yard line. You walk over, and before he can say anything, he said, "I screwed that up, Coach. That ain't gonna happen again." And he's always thinking, and very rarely do you have a guy that mature that can communicate, that can play at that level in that environment. And, he's let's see what he can do for an encore, because I said the only thing that's bad is everybody expects that out of you every week, and that's not a bad thing. But, I don't know if he can do what he did Saturday every week, but I'm glad he's on our team.
Yeah, his baseline is 2 touchdowns a game, so.
Yeah, and return something for a touchdown and break one for a touchdown. Not just catch them, but make about 10 people miss in those 2 plays.
And I wanted to ask you, sorry, I always have to.
Okay.
The swarming defense was really what stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe you've seen that in practice, but how great was it for you to see that in a game?
It was great. It's something that Chief has really preached. I think our defensive staff, it's yelling and running to the ball. We've got good team speed, and I think the big thing that closes down some of those plays is, hey, you're amazed at how much better tackling team you are when you're not having single open field tackles all over the place, or where there's a lot of space. And that space comes from guys, a lack of pursuit. And one guy missing a tackle and it turned it into 30 yards, except, you can miss a tackle when you got 4 other guys running over there and from inside out, and you know where they're coming from, and you don't have a two-way go to tackle guys and stay on the outside and force it to your help. And so, there are a lot of things that schematically are seem very simple, but the biggest thing is where the effort's being placed, knowing where your help is, and playing hard, and guys running the ball and not creating a whole bunch of one-on-one situations. But we tackled very well one-on-one. It's just saying that. I thought Justin Evans in the open field, as I said, Armani Watts and Donovan Wilson had some one-on-one opportunities with some good players and got them on the ground. and that was and the team pursuit was probably the biggest difference to anything. We just guys are playing hard. And that level of play that we talked about is really the baseline right now. And as we start to get some players back, we're really excited about that. We had 2 guys suspended for that game. Zaycoven for this game too. Zaycoven and Henderson and A.J. Hilliard look to work Alaka back in a little bit this week. We'll see where he's going to be, but we'll get him back next week for sure. He's going to start practicing a little bit more this week. Walking out of the stadium, Otera's, he told me, he said, "Coach, I could have played tonight if I really, really had to." And so, as we start to get, we go from a situation where we were thin for the first game and get there in the next 2 weeks, we'll get all those linebackers back and have them ready to go, for the Nevada week for sure. Which, looking at that bodes well for us to get the depth back because. You had another interior defensive lineman. You had 2 more linebackers in there, and that's a significant change for us defensively and an upgrade.
We'll go back left. Sam and Brent, you'll wrap us up.
Coach, you kind of mentioned it earlier, your impact freshman. You talked about Kirk, but you also have Murray who played well, and even Mack on defense. For them to go out there and play at that level on that big of a stage in their first collegiate game, what does that say to you about them as players? Well,
it says something that people disagree with. Sometimes recruiting services are right. How about that?
All right. Sam.
Another freshman, Keaton Sutherland. I know he started, but
there's another one right there.
Noticed you guys made a change there. What prompted the change at left guard in that game?
Well, he's there was a lot of things going on there for him. That wasn't a position where you could just put your hand on the ground and run fast or catch the ball. They were moving those blitzes and guys were standing over him, popping out. A guy coming from here, there. It wasn't a bull in a china shop kind of game where Keaton was used to blocking those kind of guys, and they were slanting and angling and moving around, and so. We got Jeremiah Stuckey in there and let him settle down a little bit. Keaton Sutherland's going to be a really, really good player. And just because, he didn't handle that all that well early in that game doesn't mean that he can't play. And, we do have some guys that we can rotate in there, and all 4 of those freshman offensive linemen, they're going to be really, really good players for us. And it just doesn't mean, because you can't handle that right away in that environment with a good team. I mean, you can't play. And Jermaine Ifedi redshirted his first year here. He's a pretty good player. So we've got some guys, and I think the ability to recognize, hey, let's get somebody else in there and let him take a deep breath is good. But he's going to be fine. And that's a learning experience for him, but fortunately we have some other guys that we can get in there and get him going. So we'll see him going forward, and that's what competition's about.
Brent, wrap us up.
As I'm wrapping up, I'll hit you with a 2-parter. A guy who's now listed in your 2 deep. How nice is it to have a guy like Jake Blount when you are thin at linebacker who steps in and does what he needs to do for you?
Yeah, that is good. Go ahead.
And then you mentioned y'all learned from last year in terms of South Carolina moving forward. Do you address that with your team, or do you say these guys already know it because they're veterans?
No, you don't assume anything. You just brought up, we got 4 or 5 guys out there playing that weren't here last year. They probably think they're pretty good right now based on what they went out there and those 3 or 4 guys had some success in that environment. And I think, we talked as a team yesterday about, really what's the difference between this year and this week last year from a results standpoint. And so, I don't know where we're going to be in the polls today, and to be honest with you, I don't really care based on what happened last year. So You know, what is important is, you know, how we approach this week of practice, how we approach the next few weeks, and how we approach, you know, what our team attitude is, you know, and learning from last year, and the guys who went through that, the Armani Wattses of the world, the you know, all these guys that played very, very well early, Myles Garrett, you know, all these guys that Speedy, Josh Reynolds, the number of first-year players across the board, Donovan Wilson, that played early in that South Carolina game and throughout the first 4 or 5 games all the way to Arkansas. It wasn't just the first game. You got to Arkansas at 5-0, and you know, things were coming pretty easy until that game, but we still won. And you know, remember what happened along that journey, and then through the valley after that. And then let's talk about that. Let's eliminate those types of things from our practice habits and from life, and then focus on the things that brought us to how we played last Saturday, and continue down that road. And that takes leadership, not just on the field but off the field. And you know, a lot of those young guys, it's no coincidence that comes along about that 5th or 6th week when midterms start showing up, when people start telling them how good they are. You know, you guys start asking for interviews, and they're first-year players, and you know, and they want to know, well, I'm not getting this and why I'm not getting that. So talking to your teammates, hey, talking to them about, hey, here's where I was, here's where I did well, here's where I screwed up, being honest with each other. Yeah, we talk about that. And I think it's important. I think that's why, you know, you look at this team right now, a lot of those guys that played well Saturday were sophomores and juniors. And you know, the challenge is for those guys to say, all right, we've been through this before. You know, let's pick up let's make sure of where we are every week. Let's not see the big picture. Let's make sure we're doing what we need to do every week to be able to play at least as well as we played last Saturday night.
All right.
And in terms of Blount?
Blount, how about that, huh? I think he played 40-some plays, 40-some snaps, and you know, there's certain guys, you know, you look out there and you say, you know, boy, you hope they don't find him, but you know, he played well. He moved a little bit. You know, he ran around, made some plays, held his own. You know, he's a guy that was a walk-on, was a good player at a lower division. Came in, I asked him yesterday at practice. I said, hey, look, 2 years ago, you know, what'd you do? Just decide, you know, you were a better player? I said, who'd y'all open up with? And he said, Midwestern State. And I said, after that game, what'd you do? Just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go play in the SEC and national TV against the number 15 team in the country. And he goes, no, Coach, I never thought that was going to happen. But he did a heck of a job. We're glad he's here. And you know, what a great experience for him and his family. And, you know, kid got more and more confident the whole time. All right, thanks, guys.